The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to the Lord.
When Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of King Herod, behold, Magi from the east arrived in Jerusalem, saying, "Where is the newborn King of the Jews? We saw his star at its rising, and have come to do him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was greatly troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. Assembling all the chief priests and the scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Christ was to be born. They said to him, "In Bethlehem, Judea, for thus it has been written through the prophet, and you, Bethlehem, land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, since from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod called the Magi secretly and ascertained from them the time of the star's appearance. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search diligently for this child. When you have found him, bring me word, that I too may go and do him homage." After their audience with the king, they set out, and behold, the star that they had seen at its rising preceded them, until it came and stopped over the place where the child was. They were overjoyed at seeing the star, and on entering the house they saw the child with Mary his mother. They prostrated themselves and did him homage. Then they opened their treasures and offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they departed for their country by another way. The Gospel of the Lord. They offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. It was a little school production, and 3 of the boys had been dressed up as kings, and each of them came forward rather dramatically. And the first little boy said, "Gold." And the second little boy came forward and said, "Myrrh." And the third little boy came up and thought for a minute and said, "Frank sent this." Well, to his little ear, frankincense didn't mean much. Frank, I guess, gave a nice gift. Well, how do we hear things? When we hear the story of Epiphany and the 3 kings, it's rather magical, mystical, wonderful end of the Christmas season. It's kind of unreal, but we think of the 3 kings at the manger with different skin color, black, yellow, white, representing all the peoples of the world, all the races. And we think of the gifts, gold for the king, and myrrh for the burial of the child, and frankincense, the incense that I offered at the altar, for Jesus the priest. But that's our ears hearing it. How would the audience of St. Matthew's Gospel have heard this Gospel? I think it was much more real, scary, even shocking, even controversial, when we think that his audience were the Jewish Christians. The Jewish Christians had become followers of Christ, but had always been Jewish. Well, the first message they heard earlier was about the shepherds, and we think of the romantic shepherds. No, they were smelly, and they were the lowest of society. They are the ones that announced Jesus, these people that were nothing in society. What about us, the ones who have the money and the power? What about us? That was shocking. And today, it's not really so much kings as magi, more like magicians, sorcerers, Gentiles goyim, that was a kind of a bad word for non-Jews, who were the ones that recognized the appearance of Jesus on earth to all the people of the world. And shame on us, the Jewish people, many of us not recognizing the coming of the Messiah and even rejecting him and persecuting him. That's what they might have heard as Jewish Christians, because it took a long time for them to accept that other people who were God's children could be Christians equally with us, these Gentiles. It was a battle that St. Paul had to fight over and over, that all of us are God's children, of all ethnic variety and of all skin colors, and even to respect the seekers of truth who were not yet one of us, that they were called also. This Feast of Epiphany, the manifestation of Jesus to the nations, also carries the overtone of persecution. This week we celebrated the Feast of the Holy Innocents, and we heard the story of King Herod, and we know what he's going to do. He was so jealous and fearful that this new king would be a threat to him that he kills all the babies in the area of Bethlehem under 2 years old. And it's not just wicked King Herod, it's those down through the generations who have persecuted out of fear and out of jealousy and power and bad things. This week, between Epiphany and baptism, the United States Catholic bishops, for a number of years, have designated this as National Migration Week. Because Jesus, the little baby, is taken out of his native land down to Egypt. They fled, the flight into Egypt. Again, the little boy that said, "I know who flew the plane, it was Pontius the Pilate." But Jesus was probably the first Christian exile, in a sense. And it's a week to remember that as Catholics, we embrace all people, whether they're Catholics or not, and no matter what nationality they belong to. And in our country, we are a nation of immigrants. So many of us here have names that come from Eastern Europe and all over the world. At Christmas time, I heard a story for the first time of my great-grandfather, who grew up in a little fishing village in Sicily. And I didn't know that he was a sea captain and that he was lost at sea. Just learned it. And so now I think I understand why my grandfather came to the United States so young. He lost his dad. People come for many reasons. Immigrants come to find work, to find food, to find a better life for their family. But immigrants are different than refugees who flee out of persecution, out of fear for their lives because of religious or ethnic persecution. We know today how terrible that is with ISIS and others that persecute Christians in Africa, Boko Haram and others. And so as Catholics, Pope Francis has really led the way during this year of mercy to welcome the stranger among us, the immigrant, and especially the refugee. And not just the Christian. One of the first things Pope Francis did was go to a little island off Sicily called Lampedusa. And there, a lot of African refugees and immigrants had drowned at sea, and some made it to this little island. Not too many of them Catholic, but the Pope was very concerned that so many of them were lost at sea. risking their lives to escape a dangerous situation. And so he's kind of led the way in the Year of Mercy, opening the holy door of the Vatican. All are welcome to come in. And not all of them are Catholic. And the Pope has been a leader in trying to get us not to be afraid and not to have prejudice. Two of his best buddies are a Jewish rabbi and a Muslim imam. He took them to the Holy Land to pray with him at the Western Wall. And so they're very close to him. In the Diocese of Cleveland, what can we do? Well, we're supposed to celebrate the Year of Mercy. And one of the corporal works of mercy is to welcome the stranger. So Father Bob said to me, "You're head of social concerns in the parish. What can we as a parish do?" We have a wonderfully ethnic, diverse parish, don't we? It's one of the things I love about this parish. We have people from all over the world, and we're very welcoming. And he said, can we do something to welcome the stranger? So this Tuesday, I'm going down to St. Augustine Towers, where Catholic Charities has an office for migration, for refugees and immigrants. And I didn't realize how many people come to Cleveland who are these refugees and immigrants. So I will find out more for you so that we can learn more about the refugees coming to Cleveland, who they are, how we might help as a parish. But what else can we do? Well, part of it is our own attitude. And sometimes we have a lot of prejudices, fears. I've been privileged to be able to travel a lot, as you know. They called me the traveling priest the other day. And I was in Bangkok, Thailand, on the floor of a Buddhist temple, trying to teach English to these Buddhist monks. Well, they had fled their country. Why would you leave your own beautiful country in Burma, Myanmar Republic? Beautiful land. But there's such persecution that these monks, Buddhist monks, were actually tortured. One of those in front of me had his leg broken. That's why they left their country. And now they're trying to make a new life in Thailand with the help of a married old brother, a friend of mine. I've been privileged to be in El Salvador, and I'm going back in February. And the situation is not good with the gangs. The young people are often intimidated. Actually, they're victims of extortion. The gangs tell them, "Give us money. We don't care how you get it," because they don't have any. "Either give us money or we can kill you or a member of your family." And they will, and they do. And we wonder why there's so many unaccompanied minors coming to the United States. So I think the more we learn, the more we understand that as Catholics, we can't be victims of either prejudice or fear. That's what the terrorists want. We can't identify Muslims with terrorists. They're good people, and there are terrorists, and there are Catholic terrorists too. But we need to be very careful, as Pope Francis reminds us. I think he's the one who leads the way. And quoting the words of that little boy who got it wrong at the beginning, Frank sent this. Pope Francis sent this message.